Happening now on Grid Tonight. Daniel Suárez is replacing Justin Haley in the number 7 Chevrolet next year at Spire Motorsports. Will he finally be the answer the number 17 has been looking for? Cadillac F1 test driver Colton Herta will officially race in Formula 2 at Hitech Grand Prix in 2026. Is the Silverstone-based team the best destination for him to succeed? Formula 1 signed a new deal with Apple TV to become the new exclusive broadcast partner in the United States. Was this a good business decision or a mistake to move on from ESPN? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert. We have Joe Samaniego filling in for Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports and Matt White. Welcome back from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. I want to apologize for being just over 20 minutes late from being on the air, but as you can see throughout our show, it's been an extremely busy news week, so we had to make sure we included almost absolutely every single major news story happening out there across motorsports. And with that said, Joe, take it away with our top story this evening. Got a packed show.
Packed show. A lot of breaking news came in late, so we'll be reporting on it. We'll start off with the one that broke this morning that a lot of people saw coming. That's Spire Motorsports signed Daniel Suárez to drive the number 7 Chevrolet next season in the NASCAR Cup Series. Suárez will replace Justin Haley in the driver lineup as the newest teammate to Michael McDowell and Carson Hocevar. After spending the last 5 years with Trackhouse Racing, the team decided to move on from Suárez and placed him with Colton from the Xfinity Series. As a result, this left Suárez searching for a new home, and he'll remain in the Cup Series, bringing over Freeway Insurance to serve as his primary sponsor, beginning with the 2026 Daytona 500. Suárez said Spire's growth in the last few years has been quite impressive and wants to be part of helping them reach their full potential. He also said it means a lot to him that Freeway Insurance is sticking around with him in the post-Trackhouse era. Team co-owner Dan Torres said bringing Suárez into TWG Motorsports family reflects their commitment to building some different and unparalleled graphic courtesy of Spire Motorsports. Man, when it comes to Spire Motorsports, can they continue their upward trajectory as an organization and get the right people on the number 17? Do you see Suárez finding success at Spire?
Well, good evening, Joe. Hello, Kobe. Hello, everybody. Packed show indeed, and we start with the big NASCAR story of the day, which is this Daniel Suárez thing, which, as you mentioned, kind of we all saw coming. Is Daniel Suárez drinking tequilas at the Last Chance Cup Saloon? This has to be it now, doesn't it? If he can't make this work, then we don't know how long the length of the contract is, but surely it's at least 2 to former Xfinity champion to make a successful career now in the Cup Series. He's had chances at the big teams. He's starting to fall down the pecking order as such, and he lands here with us, bringing a sponsor with him, which is vitally important at Spire. We talked about Justin Haley leaving the team on the show last week, and now we know who he's going to fill in. The car's going to be very different. It's going to be white and blue rather than the yellow that it's been, I guess, throughout most of this year with the Cambridge colours on it. But what will they do? Will they bring him forward? I mean, I just talked about last week. Carson Hocevar has been the standout member of that team all season, and he's really knocking on the door of winning a race. I don't think we're going to see it this year with the two. Well, what a surprise that would be if he can win one of the last 2 races of the year. But next year, you feel like Carson's going to be perhaps really charging for a win. And Suárez will hope that he's not too far behind. Of course, he won that race at Atlanta last year by about that much. And needs to kick on again with this new team. So let's hope for all concerned that it does go the right way. Spire are on the up. They need someone with plenty of Cup experience. A lot of people have been already signed away. This silly season in NASCAR this year hasn't so far, and isn't probably going to be the busiest. Next year will be crazy bonkers potty stuff because we've got all manner of people out of contract going into 27. But good for Suárez to be in the Cup Series. I think he's still, for me, just about is deserving of a Cup ride. but he needs to make this work and needs to be successful pretty much straight out of the gate next season in this new team.
He's going to have to make the most of this opportunity, in my opinion, when it comes to Suárez. You can say what you say about, okay, maybe he felt like the team didn't fully have confidence in him. But at the end of the day, it's him to build that team around, get that trust, that chemistry, as so many people have said, so key in making that team work. He can get it done. We've seen him get the success at trackhouse racing. That first win at Sonoma, I think he still has some potential. What we're seeing from the Spire Motorsport, Carson Fogelson, he said, has been leading that team, really outshining Michael McDowell. A lot of people anticipate Michael McDowell taking that next step after the success at Front Row. The polls, hey, that's great and all, but the results, not really much to show. We know he got the first couple of Xfinity fastest lap bonus points, but those bonus points don't mean anything. You don't make it in the playoffs. So be interesting to see where Suárez falls in that team. Will he be in between those two? Could he potentially bring the seventh to be that lead car? Or will it be just something where, like you said, Matt, he might be towards the end of his Cup Series career if he just finds himself not having that good of a start with Spire Motorsport. That said, one of the other things we also saw, Matt, Junior Motorsports signed Roger Caruth to a part-time schedule for the 2026 NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series season. Of course, Caruth will drive the number 88 Chevrolet, the most successful car, what's known today as the Xfinity Series. The number 88 has won 11 races this year, 10 with Connor Zillage, 1 with Kyle Larson. So Caruth will be under a lot of pressure to perform next year in what is the opportunity of a lifetime for the Washington, D.C. native. Right now, he's competing in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series for Spire Motorsport, and during his time in the Truck Series, Caruth has 2 career wins at Las Vegas and Nashville. When he won earlier this year at the Music City, it was notable performance because he held off just about every most dominant driver in the Truck Series. Corey Heim could not get around him in the round of 8 with the cutoff race taking place Friday night. Caruth is 14 points above the cut line and has a chance to make the championship 4 at Phoenix. A few weeks ago, he got to drive the number 17 Hendrick Motorsports Xfinity Series car, qualifying 8th and finishing 18th. When we spoke to Caruth several years ago on Life on the Grid, we also, at the very beginning of his NASCAR journey, he was also making his way from ARCA Menard Series East. Then he continued with Rev Racing into the ARCA National and progressed to GMS Racing, the Spire Motorsports, and the Truck Series. Caruth is a popular driver on and off the track as well, winning the most popular driver award last year in the Truck Series. Many people in the industry like his work ethic and praises his character, the hard work he puts in to find someone in the garage like him to work as hard as he wants to say very few bad things about him. Caruth thanked HendricksCar.com for the continued support, revealed that he'll be running the majority of races next year in the number 88 Chevrolet, graphic courtesy of Junior Motorsports. When we're looking at Roger Caruth, can he live up to that highest expectation he has? This is the highest he's ever faced in his racing career because he'll be in Junior Motorsports in a Chevrolet, which we know they're one of the best when it comes to Xfinity next year, O'Reilly Auto Parts, and the 88, which has dominated the season with all those wins this year.
Yeah, I guess of all the cars you wouldn't want to go into next year with the way it's run this year is the 88. And obviously we know all about Connor Zilic. I guess Zilic has had quite a small run-up, I guess, in NASCAR over the last year, 18 months or so with his ARCA run. And then, of course, into Xfinity and now going to Cup. It's quite a sort of a short hop for Connor, whereas Rajah's sort of path, as you mentioned, Joe, has kind of been a slow burner, and we've known about him on the scene coming through for quite some time, and he's been on our programming, as you mentioned, back in the day, and of course that is still on the YouTube channel, the Grid Network TV YouTube channel. So please go and check that out. We'll see if we can post that back up, I guess, over social media. We can throw that your way if you haven't seen that from a couple of years ago. But let's see. I mean, he's got a chance at the weekend at Martinsville of booking himself into the championship race for the Truck Series. So he's in that upper echelon of that championship. But let's face it, everybody will riot if he or any of the others pips Corey Heim to the title next weekend at Phoenix. But he's had a lot of that Hendrick backing over the years with Hendrick cars over the last couple of years, especially coming up through trucks and into those Xfinity rides. So, yeah, good. I mean, he's, as you say, fan favourite. A lot of backing behind him in the paddock. Denny Hamlin, I heard mentioned they were talking about the Truck Series, the way it's shaping out on Action Central Mental this week. And Denny was very happy to hear, because obviously didn't realise that Rajah was sort of second in the playoff standings going into Martinsville this weekend. So that pricked my ears up listening to that earlier in the week. So yeah, best of luck to him. And he's got as I said, he's got a lot to follow there going into that car with what it's done with Connor Zilich in this year.
So much pressure, 11 wins, and potentially more coming with Connor Zilich in there. That's going to be a big jump for him. But I think the big positive, Junior Motorsports, the resources they have, the data they have, I think they could really allow him as a driver to, ease into that transition, get it to where he feels comfortable in the car, and just go out there and do what you could do. I mean, Connor Zilich is generational talent. I don't think anybody's going to be saying Roger Cruz needs to get 7 or 8 wins. If he did, that'd be a magnificent first year. But if he even gets 2 or 3, I think people at that point say, okay, this is what we're expecting from him. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he does in that team next year. And then, of course, how the series is going to be looking next year. Silly season is going to be coming around the corner. So I'm very excited to see how it all shapes up in the chat room. Adam, nice to see Roger Cruz get a chance with Junior Motorsports in 2026. Yeah, it's going to be a great opportunity. And then also we have Crystal. I think the 7 team has a lot of issues internally. Suárez experience could make them a superior team leader, which could be exactly what that team needs. Matt, they bring up a good point. We've seen how that 7 team, they brought in Justin Haley. He came back after a year away. I believe it was Rick Ware Racing, then back here. And it just seemed like nothing has gone right. And even when they have a good run, Talladega, phenomenal race, wrong place, wrong time, no aggressive wrecks, he's taken out. Yeah. Do you think this is something that maybe there could be some internal issues that people are anticipating? Hey, Suárez, you're going to hopefully lead this team out of these issues?
Yeah, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year, and we talked about it a few weeks ago. Rodney Childress was brought into that team to, make it go places, and that didn't work for whatever reason. So, and as you mentioned, and I said, Hocevar and McDowell have really, we know how good Michael was last few years with Front Row, come across and continued on his trajectory with the new team at Spire, and Hocevar's been a bit of a revelation this year. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Daniel can do with that. And I guess whoever his crew chief is going to be and all that kind of thing is still to be, well, if not sorted, then at least announced. And yeah, that's going to be good. And to Carruth, to your point, Joe, he has to be, with the equipment he's got, he has to be a playoff contender, doesn't he, next year? He has to pick up a win or two, if not comfortably point his way in and get to these late rounds of the Grand National Series playoff contention next year. I refuse to call it by its proper name.
I miss the Grand National Series. So I mean, if they could make it the O'Reilly Grand National Series, I could have at least an easier time with that. Yeah. But it is what it is, and also something interesting too with Justin Haley, us car chief, Cheddar Smith to Ty Gibbs, and his pit crew to Hendrick. So, I mean, that 17 started off as potential, Rodney Childress, loaded. The sponsorship, Gamebridge is not just throwing pennies for this on the side of the car. Lots of money. and nothing to show. Even got Chili's and that ride at Dente. A
Mm.
bit of a ridiculous outfit with the Western theme and the cowboy hat, but nothing going right for this team. And maybe Dinosaurs could bring some success to them. So it'd be fun to see what that team could do. And then, of course, for anyone who's joining us, the big top story, of course, Dinosaurs going to the 7, and then Roger Cruz going to the 88. Cruz won the big things full time in the 88, gets into that playoff run part time. Not going to be a playoff contender.
Yeah, sorry, my fault. My bad. Didn't think about that.
Not a problem. I first saw the news, I was like, oh, he's going to, and then it was like, oh, wait, he's part time. Okay, well, that changes everything. But, the playoffs might change next year, too. So
well, indeed so.
Or maybe there's no playoff. We'll see. But that's very wishful thinking. And any reports on that? Right here on the Grid Network. Grid Tonight, we'll be reporting on it. Let's go to another big story from the NASCAR world, and that is 2026, the new San Diego street course and the inaugural race weekend. Well, here is that street course. Taking a look at the 16-turn, 3.4-mile street course set to take place at Naval Base Coronado on June 19th through 21st. That is summer solstice weekend. So the longest days of summer will be race day weekend at San Diego. The start-finish line has been named the Eielson start-finish line in honor of Commander Theodore Eielson. Turn 5 is the carrier corner because the sharp left-hander is located between the docking locations of 2 aircraft carriers. Turn 8, the Coronado corner, which begins a series of turns that will challenge the drivers as they head towards the interior of the base. Turn 14 is Runway Road, which is located at the north end of runway 1836 at Halsey Field. And then NASCAR San Diego President Amy Lupo said she cannot wait to see the drivers meet the challenge of the Southern California street course while celebrating the 250th anniversary of United States Navy graphic courtesy of NASCAR. Matt, I saw this map, just adding on to the excitement. What are your initial thoughts of the San Diego street course?
I'm smiling for your comment there of president of upcoming race can't wait for race. Yeah, well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? I think it looks great. You don't want brake failure because you will end up in the ocean. Turn 2, turn 5, turn 12. Obviously there's going to be plenty of runoff and safer barriers and tire walls and all that kind of thing, but looks dangerous. Restarts could be a bit handy, couldn't they? Because you're going to have a long run from 15 down to 16 to get the cars lined up. Fairly short start, finish straight. Turn 1, if it's flat or semi-flat, is going to bring everybody down to turn 2, and that's going to be a mess. But we'll see. It's also got Shane Van Gisbergen written all over it, hasn't it? Because all those heavy braking spots, turn 2, turn 3, 6, that's 6 through sort of 12 area has got him written all over it. We know how good he is in braking against other guys, especially. And obviously the Trackhouse have stopped the TV teams by putting the pedal cam in SVG's car over the last couple of years because they don't want people studying what he's doing on the brakes. So it looks cool. It's going to be, as we talked about at the time when it was announced, it's going to be a great event. Can't wait to see what the base do, what San Diego do, what NASCAR do with it on a big weekend in a big year for the States, which is going to be big. And looks cool. Nice. Always good to have new tracks, whether they be permanent road courses or street tracks. Quick little SVG nugget for you. He made an appearance this week on the Rusty's Garage podcast. A fan question was posed: would you like to do the Indy 500 one day against your good friend Scott McLaughlin? And he said flat out no. But he did say, and this is an interesting bit, there was talk of NASCAR and IndyCar doing a double header at Mexico. Apparently, according to SVG, it was close, and he would have put his hand up to get in an IndyCar at Mexico on the road course. And of course, we don't have a Mexico IndyCar race. and we don't have a NASCAR race, and we don't have a double. So all of that goodwill, perhaps, for that to happen is not happening. Certainly next year. Let's hope once with the World Cups out of the way, we can get NASCAR and or IndyCar back in Mexico in 27.
Yeah. I mean, hearing how close that was for happening, it's just like, okay, IndyCar 2027 or bust. I know there's the World Cup 2026. NASCAR's not going back to 2026. I mean, it even impacted Canada. But yeah, Shane Van Gisbergen, this track, one turn I'm very curious about is turn 16. Just that little corner. I got a sense that, okay, the initial start is sort of going to be nice because you're not going to have everyone like Coda making that final corner and then hitting the gas and causing the big cluster in turn 1. If they have that restart zone behind turn 16, I think you're going to have a nice spread out field entering turn 2, and then you won't have such a big mess. Maybe on a late restart, but that's a different story compared to the initial start. Shane Van Gisbergen, though, I think maybe turn 16 could be a great passing opportunity. It sort of reminds me of that little bend after the first few corners, and then they're coming down to that little bit of a hairpin corner in Chicago. That was the corner where he made that pass on Justin Haley.
Right.
Then Justin Haley got around him. Then Shane Van Gisbergen just got around him that initial year. But yeah, turn 16 looks like a great opportunity. Turn 5, if you mess up that corner, you're going to have no momentum going to turn 6 and 7. Turn 2, 3, just a matter of coming out of that corner and just getting your momentum. Sort of wish they used a little bit more runway. I mean, you and I, man, of course, longtime motorsport fans, we remember the days of kart in Cleveland, Edmonton for kart even. Yeah. I mean, would have loved, it's always such a spectacle of seeing race cars on a runway. But at the same time, I get it. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how busy the naval base is, but if they need to keep those runways clear, okay. But yeah, very exciting. In the chat room, Adam, the track for the NASCAR weekend San Diego looks really interesting. It is. I mean, it looks like it has a lot of fast speed corners. And still, what you anticipate, the slower speed, especially 8, 9, 10, the Coronado corners, and then 2, 3, leading up to 4. This could be a good weekend for SVG. I'm hoping we see some more drivers take the opportunity where they could come in under that special world talented driver or whatever NASCAR's calling, like Helio has done.
Jenson Button.
We've seen Kimi Räikkönen with the Trackhouse Project 91. Kobayashi with the number, I believe it was the 6-7, correct? Or
yes. Yeah.
Yep. We need drivers like that to come here also make this, I think, a much fun event. It's going to be fun with the Cup Series, the trucks, and everybody. But you add a little bit of an international element. I mean, people around the world talk about that first year in Chicago and what Shane Van Gisbergen did. It's going to be hard to beat SVG second year in a Cup Series car, but if somebody from overseas could come over and beat them, that would take headlines all across the universe, I feel. So
yeah, I do. So. You mentioned the runway quickly, Joe, before we move on. Of course, they can't use the runway because somewhere there will have to be a parking space for Air Force One that weekend. You can be certain.
Yeah, the Air Force One is going to show up, and the person that usually follows Air Force One too.
Indeed so.
They seem to want to be at every major sporting event. It's like, okay, especially at Navy Air Force Base, I get it. So, way it goes. Yes. It's going to be a fun race weekend. Cannot wait for it. San Diego, summer solstice. Of course, summer solstice, that means, longest day of the year, some great racing action. IndyCar usually has a good race. Formula 1 is racing. I haven't seen the Formula 2 calendar yet, but you may want to also follow that because Hitech Garage signed Cadillac F1 test team driver Colton Herta to drive for them next year in Formula 2. With both Cadillac F1 and Hitech F2 Pro based in Silverstone, United Kingdom, this move makes sense for Herta to get up to speed with the European style of racing required to be successful at the pinnacle of motorsports. While Herta has been a standout on American soil in the NTT IndyCar Series since 2019, He isn't a stranger to racing in Europe because he previously competed in the British F4 and Euro Formula Open. According to Hitech, Herta's moves to offer F2 offers competitive mileage in the F1 Support Series with an exposure to Pirelli tires, DRS-enabled machinery, and a race weekend structure very similar to what you could expect in Grand Prix racing in which F2 will run their feature races right before F1 races at various tracks throughout the season. Herta said he loved his time at IndyCar and proud of everything he accomplished with Andretti Global. But with this opportunity to become an F2 driver and compete against some of the best young talents in the world on the F1 weekend, it was something he couldn't pass up. He added that his goal for 2026 is to compete at the front, develop as a driver, and put himself in the best possible position for a future in F1, as he believes that Hitech is the right environment for him. Graphic courtesy of Cadillac F1. Kobe, Matt, was Hitech Grand Prix the best possible landing spot for Colton Herta to perform at such a high level in Formula 2?
Yeah, I'm sure Cadillac had several, options in Formula 2, but it's really interesting because, from year to year, you see some teams will do well this year, and then like the next year, they'll completely, fall off the face of the earth. But in a situation with Colton Herta, you want to make sure he gets put in the right situation. I don't know what that's going to mean in regards to the Mechachrome lottery, which a lot of people like to talk about. Hopefully his engine won't cut in and out. Hopefully his engine will be perfectly fine and he can have a fair chance to go out there and show what he can do. But as anyone who watches F5 Formula 2, that Mechachrome engine is the big mystery. And then sometimes it can determine your fate in this championship. But Hitech is obviously, going to be close to where the Cadillac base is. Well, one of the Cadillac bases. I know they have several bases, but Cadillac's European base is going to be based in Silverstone. And where's Hitech Grand Prix? They're in Silverstone as well, as you mentioned, Joe. So I think, that would be great for Colton because he can live in the Silverstone area and not have to travel far, to go from point A to point B versus, let's say, a team like Prema who'll be located in Italy, where he would be traveling back and forth between the UK and Italy. So to keep it in one country and in the same city and that, I think that's really, really great that he can, just focus in this area. And Hitech, I think that it's a really good team for him to be a part of. I know right now in the team's championship, they're currently second, with 2 race weekends to go, Qatar and Abu Dhabi. They got Luke Browning's currently third in the championship. Then got Dina Bogdanovic. He's 8th. So it shows that Hitech knows exactly what they're doing, in the Formula 2 championship. And last year, Paul Aaron, who's currently, one of the reserve and test drivers for Alpine, he finished 3rd in this championship last year. And also Hitech has also had some other great drivers come through their programs, like Isaac Hadjar, who's now with Racing Bulls, Jack Crawford, who has a chance to beat Leonardo Fornaroli in this year's championship. They've also had Yuri Vips, Marcus Armstrong, Liam Lawson, and also had, Nikita Mazepin, who eventually became an F1 driver. So they've had quite a number of drivers come through their Formula 2 program. And I think it'll be really, really good for Colton to be with a team like that. And maybe Colton can find some great success with Hitech Grand Prix. And for Colton, he's obviously going to be under a lot of pressure to perform. And I've been, reading some of his interviews this week talking about this opportunity, to go into F2. And he was basically saying, that it would be great to see an American driver back on the F1 grid, which is himself. But he understands, that Cadillac is not going to hand him a Formula 1 seat. When you have veterans like Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, it's going to be hard to unseat them. But Colton, he understands that he's going to have to go out there, do the work, in Formula 2, fulfill all of his duties as a test driver for Cadillac F1. And he's going to have to go out there, earn and steal that job from Bottas or Perez. It's certainly going to be quite a challenge. I know he said he wants to compete at the front, and that's exactly what's going to be expected of him. He's won a handful of IndyCar races. He's been competing, at the front of the field in the IndyCar series. And when you're a top competitor in the IndyCar series, come to Formula 2, you're expected to go out there and, be one of the top drivers. He's going to have to learn the Pirelli tires, learn all the different tracks on the F2 calendar. And also, as he mentioned, he wants to compete against some of the best young drivers in the world. I know we've only had, a few F2 driver announcements towards next year, so we don't completely know all of his competitors. I just know so far, Road and Motorsport, he's going to have to go up against Martinez Stenshore, Invicta Racing, Joshua Dirksen, And then Dams Lucas Oil, they just announced today that Dino Bogdanovich is actually going to be going over there. And then Campos, they got Noel Leon, Nicola Solov. And then AIX Racing, they have Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. and Sion Shields. So Formula 2 silly season is already shaping up quite nicely. But yeah, there's some real talented drivers that I just mentioned there, and we still have a lot, left to figure out on the F2 grid for 2026. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot more talent that Colton will have to face. But I do think at the end of the day that Cadillac did the best thing that they could to get Hitech Grand Prix, one of the top running teams in Formula 2, a chance to develop this young American driver and try to get him, in the position where he can eventually graduate to Formula 1.
Yeah, Colton Herta coming to Northamptonshire. What a thing. Not too far away from me. So if Colton, if you're watching and you want to be on grid tonight next year, let us know and we can arrange that. I jest, but that would be cool, wouldn't it? Yeah, as Kobe said, they've done well this season. Browning's third in the championship. Bogdanovich is eighth. They're second in the team's championship. They're only 13 points, is it? Let me just check. I've got Wikipedia up in front of me. They are 12 points behind Invicta going into the final two rounds, which are at Qatar and Yas Marina. So they've got a chance of winning the team's championship, have Hitech. And as Kobe said, they've been up and around the top sort of table of Formula 2 over the last couple of years, especially with Paul Aron a couple of years ago. So they really know what they're doing. This is a good thing. As we talked about, when the announcement that he was going to F2, what's that, a month or so ago back. It is a bit of a lottery. What team comes out of pre-season with the right kind of setup? It is not like Formula 1. It isn't like IndyCar where we know, say in IndyCar, we know Penske are going to be good. We know Ganassi are going to be good. In Formula 1, we know McLaren are going to be good. We're going to Red Bull are going to be good. Mercedes will be there. Formula 2 is a bit more up and down in terms of the teams and who they've got in the car and, who they've got behind the scenes as well, working away on setups and all that kind of thing. So it is a bit more wide open, but he would hope, and if Bogdanovich, as Kobe just mentioned, has already signed to go elsewhere next season, it would be good for Colton if Luke Browning can stay on. He's a Williams Academy driver, and it would be his second full year, as far as I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, if he stays on next year in F2. So he'd have a good teammate to base himself off of. We know how fast Luke is as a Macau Grand Prix winner a couple of years ago as well. So very talented guy. He wouldn't be in the Williams Academy if he wasn't talented. So that would be good if he can get a good teammate alongside him. Now we know that sort of path for Colton. Let's see how he does, because there's going to be a lot of people watching F2 next season. And I'm going to segue to our next story. There might even be more people watching Formula 2 next season than Formula 1 in the United States.
Yeah, there might be some more folks watching more F2 than F1 in the United States, because one of the big news, Formula 1 announced a new 5-year partnership with Apple TV to become the new home of the pinnacle of motorsports in the United States starting in 2026. With Apple TV becoming the new exclusive partner for F1 in America, it means the partnership with ESPN is coming to an end. During ESPN tenure showing F1 races with Sky Sports F1 broadcast, F1 has exploded with enormous growth stateside as more people have gotten into the sport. However, F1 is looking towards the future and decided to take a risk, switching to Apple TV streaming service. Kicking off the new partnership in style, F1 the movie will make its global streaming debut on Friday, December 12th on Apple TV. The new broadcast agreement will see Apple TV show all practice sessions, qualifying sessions, sprint races, and Grand Prix races. However, select races and all practice sessions will be available to watch for free in the Apple TV app. F1 TV will remain available in America through an Apple TV subscription only and will be free for those who subscribe. F1 CEO and President Stefano Domenicali said the new incredible excitement partnership between F1 and Apple TV can continue to maximize the growth and potential in America with the right content and innovative distribution channels. However, there are some who feel very concerned about the new deal with Apple TV given how other sports haven't lived up to their potential on Apple TV. According to Andrew Marchard from The Athletic, F1 took the highest offer from Apple TV, which was $140 million per year, with ESPN only offering $90 million per year. They never moved to a higher bid. You mentioned the Apple TV with MLB and MLS being the most people point at this situation. It was mentioned that neither Apple TV or those two sports leagues were willing to show the viewer numbers for their games, which also almost always means they weren't good. When you look at Nielsen's most recent statistic for streaming platforms, 8.7 belong to Netflix, and Amazon Prime Video comes in at 3.9. Apple TV is listed in the other category at 0.35%. Despite these concerns, Machard is confident that Apple TV F1 broadcast will be produced in a high quality way and will be easy for the diehards to find, and the picture quality should be excellent. But he mentions how F1 can grow even more. There's no concrete evidence that Apple TV can help them find more people. Link to the article in the video description below, and the graphic is courtesy of Formula One. Now, Kobe, I'll throw this to you. Can F1's decision to move forward with Apple TV in the United States work out long term with F1, or ESPN showing Sky Sports on the F1 coverage about to become really a thing of the past stateside?
Yeah, first I want to say I'm disappointed that they're not sticking with ESPN, because for me personally, it worked out quite well because I use the ESPN app a lot and watch a lot of ESPN programming, and it was just easy because I watch NBA, college football, NFL stuff on through the ESPN app. So it just made sense for F1 to be on there as well, so I didn't have to pay for an extra subscription service. And now when they announced the Apple TV news, I was a little disappointed because I'm like, another streaming platform. I can't even think of all the different platforms I have to keep up, with all of my favorite shows outside of motorsports, and also some of the things I need, to be able to talk about some of the motorsport stuff. Like I got Amazon Prime Video, I got HBO Max. What else do I have? I have Peacock. And it looks like I might need Apple TV as well. I don't know how much that costs yet, so I guess I have to dive into that. But I'm sure a lot of people who have as many streaming platforms, to watch things as I do, I'm sure a lot of you are frustrated as well here in the United States. But looking at some of the positives of this deal, I think it's good that they're trying to kick this off in style, as Joe said, by showing F1 the movie on Friday, December 12th. I'm probably one of the few people in the world who still have not seen F1 the movie, just never got around to it. So I guess if I decide to get Apple TV, I'll finally be able to watch F1 the movie after all this time. So I think that's smart to try to kick off the new partnership in that manner. And we were just talking about being able to watch Formula 2 in that press release. I didn't see any mention of Formula 2, Formula 3. So I have no idea how we're going to watch those races to begin with. I would assume that F2 and F3 races will be available on Apple TV moving forward, but they haven't confirmed that yet. So hopefully we'll get that figured out. And also, I want to know what on the earth happened to this new app they were planning to launch in America. I remember they announced that they were going to launch an F1 app specifically for America, where you'd be able to watch everything Formula 1, Formula 2, and Formula 3 all in one. But I guess this Apple TV deal ended up replacing that idea they once come up with. But yeah, some of the concerns they have about this, about the Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer as well, how people will admit the quality on Apple TV usually really good. But the fact is, that it's not as in many households as what you mentioned, Joe, with Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. And if you're less than 1%, of all streaming platforms with Apple TV, that's not a good sign at all. And as Andrew Marchand mentioned in his great article on The Athletic, usually when you have broadcast partners not telling you what the ratings were, it's usually a telling sign, isn't it? that it wasn't really good. I remember when IndyCar had the TV deal with NBC Sports, I think they showed a Toronto IndyCar race on Peacock exclusively, but they never come out with the official numbers of that race. They just put out a statement saying that the numbers for this race, met the expectations that we had. And I think those expectations were that the broadcast numbers were, embarrassingly low, that they didn't want anybody to know what they were. And hopefully, for F1's sake, that people will migrate over to Apple TV and and subscribe and continue to follow the sport. But people like me who are really frustrated with all the different streaming services that we're going to need to be able to watch the things we love, incredibly frustrated. And I guess it depends on how much you love the sport. If you're a true diehard who really loves Formula One and still frustrated about needing another streaming service, I'm sure they'll eventually crack and decide to sign up. But if you're just like a casual person, who follows it, because it's just on ESPN, which is more convenient for us here stateside, you may decide, it's not even worth trying to pay for, and then you completely fall out of the loop with the sport. I think it's quite a big risk that F1 is taking here, leaving ESPN, which is more accessible than Apple TV, to switch to a streaming platform, which hasn't really proved itself yet. I know Apple as a company is extremely successful, but in regards to streaming, live sporting events, we don't, as Andrew perfectly said in his article, there isn't really much evidence out there to support that, it's been a success so far. Maybe F1 can, help them get off the ground and become successful at this, but we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But all in all, really going to miss in Sky Sports F1 simulcast here in the United States on ESPN, whether it's ESPN, ESPN2, ABC. I've been really happy to see those broadcasts, really going to miss them. And I think Apple TV, they can produce a quality broadcast based on their history. But the big problem is, are you going to get people to subscribe? Or are you going to get them to watch? And right now, I'm on the fence on whether or not I'm going to get Apple TV just for Formula One. But like Matt was saying, I would be more excited to watch Formula 2 and keep up with Colton Herta's progress right now than I would about F1 next season.
Yeah. We shouldn't be surprised, really, should we, by this, considering how much Apple were behind the movie. You kind of saw this coming to some degree. While you were chatting there, Kobe, did a little bit of a dive on the old Google machine and found an article on Forbes from 2018. Now, yeah, as Joe mentioned in the brief there, this is, let me just re-find it in the script in front of me, $140 million per year deal, which Apple is paying here to get Formula One on their platform from next season. NBC, who had the F1 rights in the States pre-2018, were paying $4 million a year. When that contract was not renewed by NBC, F1 had to find a broadcaster and it went to ESPN. How much did ESPN pay for this? Nothing. Zero. Nada. It was a free deal for ESPN so that Formula One had an outlet in the United States. What has happened since 2018, 2019? Strive to Divide has risen from the Netflix ether, and now we have 3 Grand Prix in the United States, 1.5 teams, I suppose you would call, with Cadillac and Haas. And now they're going to take that all away from the US supporting people and put it behind a huge paywall, which people do not want. That is the problem with content at the moment, is everything's everywhere. I have Netflix, I have Disney, and I have Apple, only because I get it free with my bank. Otherwise, I wouldn't have it. Every time something new comes out, I go, oh, that looks cool. It's on Amazon Prime, and I don't have Amazon Prime, and I refuse to buy any more. So there's going to be a lot of that, I feel like, from you guys stateside, as Kobe mentioned. You can be paying out for yet another streaming service to watch something. That is a very small number. What's that? 0.35% of households in the States have it. That is nothing. Absolutely nothing. And there will be a lot of people that switch off. I don't think you will see the effect at Miami or at Las Vegas in terms of crowd, but the COTA crowd next season, that will be a bit eye-opening. because if you can't watch it, why would you go? So I think this is F1 loading the chambers of their gun, perhaps here. They've not quite pulled the trigger on it yet, but this is a big deal in many ways for the American F1 audience. And if Colton Herta does succeed and go in F2 and goes to Formula One again over the next couple of years, who's going to be able to see him if people refuse to go down this route and get Apple TV? There was so much conjecture here in the UK back in whatever year it was that Sky took Formula One away from the BBC after it had flip-flopped between BBC and ITV, which is free to everybody on free-to-air, and Sky took it and put it behind a paywall. But the coverage has been just incredible ever since. And now Channel 4 have the rights here in the UK. They get to show the British Grand Prix live, but they have highlights of everything else, and it gets a good number. But if that's going to be an exclusive deal in the US on Apple, I worry. I really do worry for the free Grand Prix on the calendar, because we've seen what Formula One do with dates on the calendar where no one goes to watch. They disappear from the calendar quite quickly. So I worry for all of the American and the Americanness in Formula One that we have right now over the next 3 or 4 years. It might be very small by the time we get to 2030. It might be a very different outlook on American F1 stuff, let's say.
In the chat room, Crystal, it feels like most racing series don't seem to consider the actual distribution of the channels they are selling the rights to. I'm glad you brought this up, Crystal, because here's the thing. F1 Balloon, Drive to Survive, social media. Remember, it used to be hardly any team was on social media, hardly any driver. Oh, yeah. Now, every team, every driver, everybody's on social media. You brought up a good point, Matt. You connect to the teams. You connect to the drivers. Now people know the personality of midfield drivers like Esteban Ocon, who I have not heard much of this year, but if you watch Drive to Survive, you know his character. You know his personality. Yeah. Same with Lance Stroll and all these drivers. If you can't watch the race, and for some reason you decide I'm not renewing my Netflix, well, guess what? ESPN, which is the most basic cable platforms, gone. ESPN is introducing their own standalone apps. They got ways to stream. That's gone. And you look at what's happening to their competition. Yes, NASCAR has some races on Amazon Prime. Small amount, though. A lot of it, cable television, some broadcast. Then look at their other competition, which might land Mick Schumacher. Every race is on free broadcast Fox. We could complain all about Fox's coverage. That's a different topic, but IndyCar's the only one that's going to have, hey, you got a TV, even if it has an antenna and an aluminum foil. If you could get the signal, you could watch IndyCar all the races. F1, well, no, you need to have an Apple TV subscription. And I think some people forgot, unless you're here in the West Coast, part of the reason the Pac-12 dissolved was because their best idea was, we're going to have our Pac-12 on Apple TV. USC, Oregon, UCLA, they bailed to the Big Ten. The rest of this conference collapsed. I just do not see this being the step forward. I personally believe this is a cash grab that F1 just, they're taking the money. Apple can make these promises. Yeah, there's more iPhones than Androids. I get it. There's Apple Music. There's Apple this. There's Apple that. But when you look at the majority of Americans, when it comes to the streaming platforms, Netflix is a dominant force. Amazon Prime, especially you just sign up for Amazon Prime free shipping, you get Amazon Prime streaming for free. I wish I knew about your bank with a free Apple TV account by going there. I don't think we got any here in the United States. But there's so much competition. I just don't see the casual F1 fan that got into it and I'm going to watch it on ESPN. Do I want another subscription? Maybe, maybe not.
You could. Sorry, carry on, Jay.
I was just going to say, you could hear there's rumbling, there's rumors that Roman Grosjean could appear back in IndyCar again. that news breaks. I can't watch F1. Maybe I'll check out IndyCar in St. Petersburg. Hey, that's a great race to watch.
Yeah, they watch Mick.
They can watch
Yeah.
Mick Schumacher. I mean, we got talented drivers there. So, I mean, there's a lot of competition. I feel they are not making a smart move when it comes to the United States market. And I just feel this is just Apple can say what they want. Yes, globally, they're a recognizable brand. But I just don't see this going the way. If anything, I know from what Jeff Gluck had said on the teardown from the Athletic, NASCAR was probably celebrating the fact that where this past Sunday they were head to head with the United States Grand Prix. Next year, they're head to head. Well, guess what? Whoever has a TV, they can't find it unless it's an Apple TV F1.
Good evening to Mr. Owens, our sports media correspondent, who just messaged me and said, "Darn, looks like I've just missed the sports media conversation this week." What I was going to say, also was on the IndyCar point. Fox now and IndyCar have got to go bang. We have to get these people that aren't going to go with Apple. I'm an Android guy. I've never had an Apple product in my life, and I don't use Apple Music. I use Spotify. I've got a Samsung phone. There are plenty of people in this world that are anti-Apple, and they won't go with Apple. You might be a massive Formula One fan, but you won't go with Apple. I was also thinking about, and you mentioned it in the rundown, the MLS. I feel like, and again, this is probably, you probably know a bit more about this than I do. Pre-COVID, there was a lot of noise around the MLS. It goes to Apple. Not heard a peep about it since.
Yeah. I mean, here in Portland, the Timbers, big following. And I remember hearing about before our move in 2019, we still, following all this, but I'll be honest, like occasionally, if I'm somewhere where it's like in a hotel due to a work trip at the weekend or Sunday night at the pub, they might be rerunning the F1 race. Or it might be live depending on the time zones. You never see soccer anymore because it's behind Apple TV paywall. You never see you're not going to see F1 at your local dive bar unless they specifically get an Apple TV subscription.
Yeah.
And
great point.
I swear I'm getting a little tired of, I got to subscribe to this entire platform, but I only want to watch one thing. I got Peacock for NASCAR IMSA. I have not watched any of their other programs. IndyCar could be in a good spot, F1, unless they prove a lot of the experts wrong. We're talking people from the Athletic, people that follows media. If they could somehow convince their millions and millions of followers to subscribe to Apple TV, but even if they do, will they stick around? They could slowly drop off, especially if they miss a race. Oh, it's not on ESPN to re-air. But guess what's going to be on the air? It's IndyCar in a better time here in the United States.
Yeah, Joe. I thought you brought up some good points there, and especially what you said about the bar. Like when I've gone out like to eat and stuff, like if you ask them to, they'll usually like turn on the program like week one of the NFL season before. I think it was before the New Hampshire playoff race. I was out eating at a birthday celebration and wanted to watch the Carolina Panthers, and they were able to easily change to that. And if you wanted to see an F1 race, say in the United States on an afternoon, you could ask them, hey, can you turn to ABC? And then they'll turn it on, and then you can be able to watch the race. But who's what are the odds they're going to have Apple TV, right? Be like, I want to watch the F1 race at like say a breakfast location or whatever that have TVs there. Yeah, since a lot of the races, well, most of the F1 races come on early in the morning here in the United States. So if they don't have Apple TV, you won't be able to put an F1 race up on the TV or anything like that. And then the continued frustrations, the cost of living, I don't know what it's like there for you guys in the UK, Matt. The cost of living here in the United States is off the charts now. It's continuing to go up. I actually just got two separate emails recently, one from, I think, HBO Max and also one from Peacock, and they announced they're raising the price of my subscription for next year on those two platforms. And, as they continue to raise the prices, it makes me wonder. It's like, I really like watching, these certain programs. I like being able to keep up with this in motorsports. So as much as I love motorsports, I think these subscriptions are becoming way too much. It's just getting outrageous. These companies are greedy and they just want to take our money. And the point you brought up, Matt, about how, at the time ESPN, took the F1 coverage, F1 was, not doing as well in the United States. And so they're like, hey, we just, like you're saying, we just want to stay in the air somewhere in the United States. So any station, just take our series. And then ESPN, done a remarkable job, with this coverage of Formula One. And then all of a sudden, like, we thank you for your good deeds. Now you must pay up. And now F1 wanted all their money at the forefront. Yes, ESPN, I guess they left a generous deal, but Apple TV offers them the most money, and I guess F1 feel like they needed to get their return on investment at the detriment of everyone else. I like I said, I hope this works out. I don't have much confidence as will, because I'm looking at reviews of Apple TV. They usually say the coverage is good and all of that, but the thing is another subscription service that's not doing as well as Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, that type of stuff. And as you say, Joe, it's less than 1% of Apple TV that's been downloaded by people here stateside. So if you have less than 1%, compared to the other streaming platforms, is Formula One really going to be able to keep up the same number of viewership? And we're not going to be getting the F1 TV numbers anymore. But since Apple TV don't like to put those out for various reasons, as I brought up the Peacock example with IndyCar, when that race was behind the paywall, they wouldn't give you any specific numbers. They just said that it met our expectations, which would probably mean low viewership.
That just such a small number, just so small, just remarkably small. And what you won't get with this deal, to your mention, Kobe, and to perhaps Joe as well, in the bars, in the pubs, wherever, the people that will be sat at home on a Sunday afternoon, say in, I don't know, April, May, when there's no football on and there's no hockey on and there's no baseball on, that won't then casually tune into the Miami Grand Prix because they can't, because they have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I love the casual fan, but you can't get no casual. You won't get no casual fans if you don't pay. Just for an extra, 60 million a year, which they then won't get back because people won't subscribe. I just think it's bonkers.
Yeah. Don't expect them to be able to find the casual fan moving forward. And for me, everyone knows I'm a night owl. I'm not a morning person, so I actually miss most of the F1 races. I usually have to go back and watch, the highlights package, or if the race is really good, I will sit back and watch the entire race before the NASCAR race comes on. So that's why I'm on the fence about getting Apple TV. I mean, I don't want to miss out on Colton Herta in Formula 2, seeing how he gets along. I don't want to miss out, on F1, especially during the first year of the new regulations, and also Cadillac. That's a big deal as well for us here in America. I don't want to miss out on Cadillac either, but I'm not sure if I can justify paying for Apple TV, considering the fact I only watch the races in Australia, Asia, on that side of the world at the beginning of the year, then obviously the one stateside and at the back end of the season, but usually most of the European rounds, I end up missing all of those, in the middle of the season live. So I'm not sure if Apple TV would be worth the investment for someone like me.
And two things I want to bring up too in regards to this. Recently, Phillips Island, of course, MotoGP, the time zone difference. I was at the pub and I was able to, as you said, hey, can you put on it was I believe Fox Sports where they had MotoGP?
Yeah.
People that never seen it. Oh, hey, motorcycle racing. They see some of the action. I'm convinced none of my colleagues there are gonna remember MotoGP, but that's just some eyeballs. Yeah. The fact that ESPN, the world leader in sports, and especially in the United States, owned by Disney, biggest multimedia company here. People will watch ESPN for football, hockey. There's some baseball coverage, but we know they got rid of most of their games.
Yeah, and basketball,
the college sports, Sports Center. When the NASCAR used to be there, they'll be on Sports Center. They'll be RPM Tonight. They'll be these programs. They do the same thing with F1 now. Sports Center, there's the F1 story. There will be ads for the Miami Grand Prix, the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That's all going to go away next year. ESPN is not going to bring up F1, which is, by the way, on Apple TV. They're not going to. you're not going to have your big Thursday night college football game. And here's a friendly reminder on ESPN: watch F1. Nope, that's gone. They're going to remind you of whatever random sport they're going to have, pro bowling or something. So it's going to be a big change. It might be a wake-up call, and I'm hoping they don't make the same mistakes of all these changes. You lose the casual fan, and the diehard fans are sort of tuned out because they might be watching something else like IndyCar. So a lot just followed with this story for the next 5 years. With that said, I know we're not talking about the next 5 years, but the Grid Endurance Performance Index this season, a record, I believe, 7 lead changes, and not this weekend, but there's still quite a few races coming up as we're closing up 2025.
Joe, we actually have one more story before we get to the EPI.
And we do, yeah. I jumped ahead just because I lost a little bit of track. This is a story I think we could collectively say we sort of wish it was different circumstances. Unfortunately, Tim Mayer, who was planning to challenge the incumbent Mohammed bin Salem in December for the FIA president, has ended his presidential campaign and dropped out of the race. Mayer had a fiery press conference during the last week at United States Grand Prix at Circus of America to announce the news. He said he wasn't able to meet the requirement to run for FIA president because the sanctioning body election rules prevented him from standing a chance. Mayer also accused the whole thing of not being a democratic process, saying that when elections are decided before anyone can cast their ballots, it's not a democracy, but theater. According to Andrew Benson from BBC Sports, FIA president candidates must submit a list of their prospective vice presidents for the sport, which must be selected from each of the FIA 6 global regions. On the World Council list of potential VP candidates, there is only one name listed from South America. That's Fabienne Ecclestone, the wife of former F1 leader Bernie Ecclestone. Fabiana has also pledged her loyalty supporting Soleim, and with nobody else to choose from South America, that basically blocked anyone else from being able to run for the FIA president. Mayer says Soleim is exercising power without breaks, but also acknowledged that he isn't entirely to blame for this whole situation and it's been a slow process over the 2 decades. He added that Soleim is not the first person to think of new ways to restrict the ballot, and now we've gotten to a point where only one person can go on the ballot. Link to this article in the video description below, and the courtesy of FIA Forward. Now, FIA Forward, not part of the FIA, that was the campaign. But how alarming, Cody, was this that nobody can challenge the incumbent FIA president? And would you think another 4 years under Ben's leadership will mean for the FIA?
I said, well, Tim Mayer's initiative was FIA forward, and I guess you could say Mohammed bin Salim's initiative is FIA backwards. And that's where I feel like that we are going, with 4 more years under Mohammed bin Salim's leadership. But yeah, this is very alarming. I mean, the entire 4 years that we've had of Mohammed bin Salim as FIA president, and I know Josh Haidt, he's missing tonight because FIA is his all-time favorite topic to talk about here on Grit tonight. So I'm sure he's very jealous that we're talking about his favorite person in motorsport MBS here tonight. But it's been 4 years, the last 4 years on this Grit Tonight show, not every Wednesday night, but many Wednesday nights, the last 4 years, we've talked about, all of the things that he's been doing, to tear down the FIA from internally and also to hurt the integrity and the reputation of the FIA. So it's just he's just been a walking controversy during his first term as FIA president. So I would expect more of the same in the next. And the fact that you can't even get someone to run against him in a fair manner, that's extremely disappointing. And it just makes me wonder, like, what else is going to happen these next 4 years under his leadership? Are there going to be, even more guardrails taken down? I know a lot of guardrails that you had, to check the power on the FIA president, under Mohammed bin Salim, that has gone away over time. We still have some guardrails left, but I have a feeling that we're going to see more get taken away. And I think it's really crazy that, they require you to have these VP candidates, that you can choose from all the different reasons. And it's very suspicious that in South America, you only have one. And that one, is the wife of Bernie Ecclestone, the former F1 boss, and that she has already thrown her support behind Mohammed bin Salem. Since there's nobody else, that means nobody else can run. It automatically means Mohammed bin Salem will be elected to another 4-year term, as FIA president. And when it comes to being the FIA president, you can do 3 4-year terms. So you can get 12 years in power because they have term limits for now. I'll say that in quotes, for now. And I know if Mohammed bin Salem decides, to run for a 3rd term after the 2nd term is up, he'll be in his early 70s by then. Not sure if he'll, want to continue. I'm not sure what his health will be like at that time, or if he'll want to continue, leading the FIA. But if he's in good health and wants to, continue on, once that 3rd term is over and he's supposed to be done, what would stop him from trying to end term limits with the FIA? I'm not sure if it would ever get to that point, but it's completely gone off the rails right now. And I really hate that we're in this position. It would be nice, if Tim Mayer could have ended up on the ballot to try to challenge him in a fair way, but it seems like right now there's nothing fair happening at the FIA, and it's just ridiculous and corrupt that you need to have a VP candidate from all these different regions. I think there should be more than one VP candidate that you could potentially have for FIA sport. And it's a shame that, this one person, Fabiana Ecclestone, the wife of Bernie Ecclestone, ends up deciding this whole election that we're going to have one candidate. And on December 12th, when it's time for the elections, it's going to be easy and straightforward because you already know what's going to happen. And it's a shame he's going to be unopposed, because looking at what Tim Mayer, saying, some of the initiatives, some of the things he wants to do, I thought personally he had some really good ideas. And I think some of the people who are sick and tired of MBS's leadership, I think a lot of people would have been really happy to see, a fresh pair of eyes at the table. And now we're going to have 4 more years of, controversy, drama, scandals, whatever you want to call it. And if you're at the FIA right now, and if you're afraid to speak up, got some more dark times ahead, because before it gets better, it looks like it's going to get a lot worse.
Well, he talked about a cash grab with the Apple TV deal that we've just been discussing. This is the power grab of the week. Term limits. There's a thing, isn't it? Donald Trump and MBS not ever seen in the same room. To your point, Kobe, we're gutted that Josh is missing this week, because even though we started late and we're an hour in, he would have been on the Revolumeter about this when we got to this story. I'm sure he would have tried to get it pushed to number 1, but we went with the NASCAR stuff instead. Just it's awful, isn't it? I don't know what to say. What we haven't already said already, and over the last, and we've been covering this story, as you mentioned, pretty much at least once a month forever, it seems like, on this show, especially in most recent times. And we were all set to have our, I think it was going to be after our last Grid Tonight show of the year, was the last one after when the election result would have come out on the 12th of December. We were all set to have the MBS out party on Grid Tonight for just to take us into the Christmas and New Year break, and we're not going to get to have that chance now, unfortunately, which is a bit of a downer for us, because it's just going to continue on. And we've seen all these people that have left the FIA over the last couple of years, and they all got behind Tim Mayer, and it was going to be the second coming as such, and they were all going to get back to normal, and it was all going to be quashed, squashed, not happening. I've made a rule to say that I can't be taken out for various reasons. We had the David Richardson, Robert Reed thing earlier in the year, got rid of them because they were a bit anti-MBS, and apparently the British press not being on MBS's side has cast aspersions there, and this and that and whatever else. And you see him standing by the Parc Fermé at the end of Grand Prix. Drivers don't want to know him. He's just making no friends, but he's probably making a good bit of money for himself, which is always everyone's most important thing in the world. So terrible stuff. And I don't know what to say that we haven't already said on this show. It stinks.
That's what I was going to say, is you pretty much summed it up. This is a power. I mean, it's not like Bernie Ecclestone and his group are out of power and they just really like the job MBS has done. No, nobody has. But if he's out, there's a lot of people that are also out with the slate of VPs. That would be a change up, and it's just unfortunate. It's like this is such a negative when the drivers don't really want to deal much with you, when your media is blasting you. At the end of the day, you just manipulate the rules that were meant to be, we'll include somebody from every region, and one region is just, no, we're just going to keep what we got going, good things staying. Very unfortunate. With that said, before we get to the EPI, I understand we got some breaking news to report. It's already a lot of breaking news today.
Yeah, a lot of breaking news. I know we usually tack this on to the last bit of my news segment sometimes, and we've been fortunate the last few weeks not to get anything like this, but we're going to talk about it now since we just got some sad news a few moments ago. Gary Rogers, the owner of Gary Rogers Motorsports, in Australia, has passed away at age 80. Yeah, we just got the news. First broken by speedcafe.com. And they say Gary Rogers Motorsport won the Bathurst 1000 a year, 2000 with, Garth Tander and Jason Bargwanna. There were some youngsters, trying to make their name in the supercars world then. And, Gary Rogers, he was known for giving a lot of young guns a great opportunity, like Steven Richards, Lee Holworth, Scott McLaughlin as well. And then Jamie Whincup, he, in his first season, in supercars, he was with Gary Rogers, but, Whincup's rookie campaign didn't go so well and, ended up getting, removed from that seat. And Jamie Whincup went on to have a great career. But the point is, Gary Rogers, was a beloved figure in the supercars paddock for many years. He gave a lot of drivers opportunities to state their claim in the main game. And a lot of people in Australia and, New Zealand and here, stateside and you in the UK, all sad to hear, that Gary Rogers has passed away at age 80. And, on behalf of everyone here at Grid Network, keeping his family, his friends, thoughts and prayers, and hope his memories, been quite a blessing. Gary Rogers passed away at age 80. Just got the news broken by speedcafe.com just a few minutes ago.
Such sad news to hear. I'll throw it to you, Matt, because I was going to share, as you mentioned, Kobe, Scott McLaughlin, that was the Volvo era. And that finish at Adelaide between Scott McLaughlin and Whincup in the Volvo, the last few laps, that was something where it's like, this is amazing. Will always stand out to me. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I just, stunned by this. Just pulled up that Speed Cafe article now on the phone here in front of me. Yeah, the Scotty Max Supercars chance came with Gary Rogers Motorsport in the Holden before the Volvo, and then all that success with the Volvo, and then of course that got in the ride with Team Penske, and we know what and Dick Johnson Racing, and we know what's happened from there. But he's brought so many people through. They for a while have sort of owned the second string of Australian motorsport with Trans Am, and S5000 was their baby. TCR Australia was part of that group. That's kind of all disbanded over the last couple of years, but that was a Gary Rogers thing. Once they left supercars, they went and did their own thing with some championships and have been massively successful with it. And one of the absolute legends of Australian motorsport, and one of the good guys. He would dress up in all kinds of things on the grid at Bathurst, at other places. I've seen him in dinosaur suits. I've seen him dressed in like proper beach attire and all manner of things on the grid, because he just was there for a laugh, and he didn't really care too much about what people thought of him. And that's just sad. That's shocked me. That is really, really sad to hear that Gary Rogers has passed away. Adam, I knew you'd be straight in the comments, Adam. Incredible owner in supercars. Loads of respect to him. And may he rest in peace. And we, pass our condolences on to to Barry and everybody else at GRM. Scotty Mack in the Volvo's West, Whincup at Holden. The other one that instantly springs to mind is Garth Tander running out of fuel in the last corner at Phillip Island, and Scotty coming through to pinch him on the line for a win again in the Volvo. I think it might have been the same year, might have been only the year after. That was a cool one. Stunningly, shockingly sad news.
Yeah, very sad, and definitely, as Cody said, thoughts going out to him, his family. May the memories be a blessing to remember. Fortunate timing, we got to keep going with the show, of course. Grid Endurance Performance Index. This time, I know I got a little ahead of myself. Another exciting week.
Yeah, big week, and it's shaped what we will perhaps think is the top 10 for the year. Thank you, Joe. Another week of Grid Endurance Performance Index racing. We'll start in Asia. We'll start with the GT World Challenge Asia. They had their championship finale at a brand new street track in Beijing. I knew Kobe was watching over the weekend, a part of it. Race one went to Nissan on home soil, kind of on home soil from Japan, not so far away. Hirobon and Yu Kanemaru winning the first race of the weekend. Race two was won by the Ferrari team of Ferrari WEC driver Yifei and his teammate Yaki Zhang. The championship came down to a tie, and the Porsche team of Bo Yuang and Hong Li Yi ended up winning the championship on countback. 125 points they both got as a pair. And another Porsche guy, the team car, in fact, at Origin Motorsports, Wei Yu, who's had multiple teammates over the championship. They were all tied on 125 points. The Bo Yang and Hong Li Yi wins column was more, so they end up winning the championship this year, and they defended that title, the first team to ever go back-to-back in GT World Challenge Asia with the championship. So congratulations to Origin Motorsport there. Another race in Asia over the weekend was the Super GT Championship. They were in Japan at Autopolis. A race won by Honda. Tadasuke Makino, Naoki Yamamoto, the winners in GT500. Harry King, Tsuba Kondo, and Coyote Fujinami were the winners in the GT300 category. Big race at Indianapolis on Sunday, which, much like it seems every race that happens at Indianapolis at the moment, was delayed by rain and weather and storms, much like it did in 2008 for the MotoGP race, which ran just before a hurricane. Who won that race? Valentino Rossi. Who won this race? Valentino Rossi, as part of the WRT team, along with Charles Weerts and the man on the right-hand side there, Kelvin van der Linde. He, holding that very nice trophy above his head, is the Intercontinental GT Challenge Drivers' Champion for the season. Again, he's had various teammates throughout the season, and he comes away as the Drivers' Champion for the year. So congratulations to Kelvin and WRT on securing the Manufacturers' Championship for BMW. The final European sports car race of the season happened on Saturday at Portimao, as you can see in the back of the shot, and it was won by the guys that were leading the championship going in. Charles Malaysia, Esteban Masson, and Ollie Gray coming home with the race win on Saturday. Not their first. They have won a couple of races so far this season, and they are the race winners. We'll get to the champions of the series in a minute once we've finished off with the race victors. The Pro-Am category, excuse me, of LMP2 was won by Rodrigo Salles, Mateus Besch, and Clement Novalak, Formula 2 refugee, in the number 29 car there. GT3 was won by Corvette and TF Sport. Charlie Eastwood, Rui Andrade, and Hiroshi Koizumi getting the victory in the Chrome Corvette on screen there. And LMP3, because of course it was, they've won 5 of the 6 races this season in LMP3, was won by Paul Lanscher, Adrian Klossmile, and Theodore Jensen. So they are the champions in LMP3. GT3 was won by the race by Eastwood, Andrade, and Koizumi, and they also came home with the championship, as did Gray, Milesi, and Masson in LMP2. The LMP2 Pro-Am champions were AO Racing and Rexy getting Roxy is the Spike. I'm getting my cars mixed up. All these dinosaurs. Spike, the championship winners, PJ Hyatt, Dane Cameron, and Louis Delatraz, who have been splitting their campaign across the European season, and IMSA's LMP2 championship. They come home with the championship in LMP2 Pro-Am. Let's have a look at what that's done to the Grid EPI top 10 for week 30. And Ollie Gray, with that win, cements himself at the top of the championship with his teammate for the season, Esteban Masson, who's done some WEC races. That's why their score is different. So we have the young Brit on top. Charles Weerts jumps up to third, ahead of Jakub Śmiechowski, who's his team ran second in that ELMS race at Portimao. Wasn't enough for them to take the title, and he slipped behind Charles Vitz in third and fourth position there on the EPI list. Kelvin van der Linde pops himself back into the top 10 in 8th place with his win at Indianapolis. So I think we're at about 13 or 14 races left to go. Might even be less than that on the count. I have to get that checked, and I'll update you on the show next week. Ollie Gray is into the lead there and has half a hand on the 2025 Grid Endurance Performance Index Trophy. That is how the top 50 looks through week 30 of the season. There are no scoring races coming up this weekend. We have a rare EPI break at the end of October. So what we're going to do on the show next week is run you through a bit more of what you can see on screen in terms of scoring and who's where, and a couple of other stats and facts for the year. Maybe we'll throw together a female-only EPI ranking. Jamie Chadwick will be top of it because you can see she is in 12th position. She and Matthias Joubert and Daniel Juncker finished third at the weekend at Portimao. They were in the championship hunt, but it didn't fall their way. It fell the way of the VDS team of Gray, Masson, and Charmelesi. That's the EPI update for week 30. More bits and pieces to come next week. As I said, it is a week off of EPI racing. We are 80 minutes into the show, and I know that Kobe's news list is lengthy because it has been a very busy week indeed. So let's hand to him. I'm going to rest my ever-growingly sore throat, and he's going to take it away with some more news.
Yeah, time for some more motorsports news from around the world. And let's start off with a silly season update in the Repco Supercars Championship. So, Adam, sit back because I know you're watching. I know you're going to enjoy this. So, let's get started. Roland Dane, the co-founder of Triple 8 Race Engineering, is returning to the Supercars paddock with Premier Racing. Dane will become their new team principal effective immediately on January 1st, 2026, after selling his stake in Triple 8 and stepping away from one of the most successful teams in Supercars history. Dane spent the 2025 season doing limited consulting for Premier, and now he's set to lead a Supercars team again. Dane said working with Premier this year has allowed him to get a deeper understanding of how the team operates and works together, but he has also identified some room for improvement, and that's what he's looking forward to getting his hands on. According to Supercars.com, Jamie Whincup said Dane would take a heap of knowledge to his new team, feeling confident that he'll improve that program and expects that they'll be going head-to-head on track with his former boss. Photo courtesy of Premier Air Racing. And the team also announced its driver lineup for the 2026 Supercar season, with James Golden moving on to the Blanchard Racing team and Premier deciding to move on from Richie Stanaway. Declan Frazier and Jaden Ojeda will make up their new driver lineup next year. This marks the return of Frazier to the main game for the first time since the 2023 season. The 2022 Dunlop Super 2 Series champion recently contested the Bathurst 1000 with co-driver Andre Heimgartner at Brad Jones Race and earned a 7th place finish in the great race. Now Frazier gets a second chance at being a full-time Supercars driver after his first stint saw him driving for a Tickford racing team that eventually had to downsize from 4 to 2 full-time entries. Frazier said with the addition of key personnel to an already talented group, he believes they can fulfill the team's goals of building a championship contending organization. As for Ojeda, this will be the 26-year-old's first opportunity in the main game as a full-time driver after being a co-driver for the Enduros every year since 2020. Being a junior driver for Mercedes in GT3 racing, Ojeda has made the most of his limited starts in Supercars and had a strong race in the most recent Bathurst 1000. I wonder if that ended up earning him that full-time ride with Premier. And during the race, his key performance as a co-driver gave Walkinshaw Andretti United's Ryan Wood a shot to compete for the win before mechanical issues ruined their day. Ojeda said becoming a full-time Supercars driver is incredible and a credit to all the people who supported him since the start of his career. Graphic courtesy of Premier. Triple 8 will expand to a 3-car team next year in Supercars, with Brock Feeney and Will Brown returning to their Red Bull Ampol racing program. The third team is a result of a new partnership with SCT Motorsport. This is a 2-year deal that will see Triple 8 build, manage, and race in SCT Motorsport Ford Mustang for the 2026 and 2027 seasons. SCT Motorsport was previously with Brad Jones Racing before switching to Triple 8. Andrew Jones, head of motorsport programs at SCT Logistics, said the new strategic partnership with Triple 8 puts them in a terrific position to achieve their ultimate aim of winning races, the Bathurst 1000, and a championship. And earlier today, it was announced that AAA's Dunlop Super 2 Series driver Jackson Walls would receive the promotion to Supercars next year driving this SCT Motorsport-backed entry. Walls is currently 5th in the Super 2 Championship and got his first career win earlier this year at Queensland Raceway. He said already been a AAA driver is an advantage within itself since he knows the team, and thank Pete Smith, Andrew Jones, and Jamie Whincup for their faith in him to perform, at the highest level of motorsport in Australia. Graphic courtesy of Red Bull Ampol Racing. Jack LeBrock has parted ways with Erebus Motorsport, and he's returning to Matt Stone Racing in 2026. LeBrock will replace Cam Hill in a number 4 Chevrolet in a reunion with the team he helped reach victory lane for the first time in 2023 at Hidden Valley Raceway. He said they achieved something special together 2 years ago and has been impressed with their progress. While he was over at Erebus the last 2 years, team owner Matt Stone said LeBrock played a key role in putting his organization on the map, calling him a proven race winner who knows their team, culture, and what they stand for. Photo courtesy of Matt Stone Racing. And that's the end of our Supercars segment for tonight. So let's get into everything else. 2025 ARCA Menard Series champion Brendan Butterbean Queen was named the first driver for Collex Racing's new Ram 1500 program for the 2026 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series season. Before winning this year's ARCA title, Queen won the Cars Tour late model stock car title last year and took 3 consecutive titles at his home track in Virginia at Langley Speedway from 2020 through 2022. And in order to get an early start with Colleague, he's been running a few Xfinity Series races for the team this year, including the final 3 races at Talladega, Martinsville, and Phoenix. Queen said he was just a short track kid who worked hard every day and never really knew if he would make it to this level, and feels thankful for this chance to help build a winning team and chase championships with Ram. Graphic courtesy of Colleague Racing. 1 week ago today, Nitro Motorsports officially acquired the assets of Venturini Motorsports' ARCA Menard Series program. Nitro plans to continue Venturini's vision for performance, driver development, and long-term growth across multiple levels of motorsports. The team, founded by Bill and Kathy Venturini in 1982, went from being just a family team to having one of the most respected driver development programs in all of NASCAR under the leadership of their son, Billy Venturini. Billy said that after his dream of racing faded, he found himself in a position to help young drivers chase their dreams. So he used the lessons learned from his own failures and past goals to build a most complete and meaningful driver development program. With the team's spirit staying alive during this transition, they'll operate under the banner Nitro Motorsports, driven by the Venturini legacy. Graphic courtesy of the team. Richard Childress Racing hired Jim Pullman to be Kyle Busch's new crew chief starting in the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season. Pullman previously worked at RCR as the head of research and development before moving to Junior Motorsports in 2023 to become Justin Allgaier's championship-winning crew chief in the Xfinity Series last year. Replaces Randall Burnett, who is set to move to Trackhouse Racing and serve as Connor Zillage's crew chief next year for his rookie campaign, while Andy Street will continue to serve as interim crew chief of the number 18 for the remainder of the season. RCR is excited to have Pullman back in the building. Team owner Richard Childress called Pullman a relentless competitor in the garage who was well respected during his previous tenure in Welcome, North Carolina, and believes he'll do a great job leading Busch's number 8 team next year. Graphic courtesy of Richard Childress Racing. Tricon Garage hired Jeff Stankiewicz to its competition department in NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Stankiewicz previously served as crew chief for Grant Enfinger at CR7 Motorsports, but parted ways with the organization after the number 9 Chevrolet was searching for a spark during this year's playoff run. And during his time at CR7, Stankiewicz led Enfinger to the championship 4 last year and scored 2 wins. And looking at what he's done throughout his career as a crew chief, he has 12 Truck Series wins and a championship with Sheldon Creed back in 2020. This includes 4 playoff berths and 2 championship 4 appearances in all. General manager Kevin Ray said adding a championship caliber leader will immediately elevate their program and position the organization for even greater success in the future. Graphic courtesy of Tricon Garage. The Alpine Endurance team signed Antonio Felix da Costa for the 2026 FIA World Endurance Championship season. Da Costa will join the team in the hypercar class, driving one of their A424 prototypes and have a dual program, which includes representing Jaguar in Formula E. He last competed in the WC full-time during the 2023 season when he drove the Porsche 963 for Hertz Team Jota in the hypercar class. A year before that, he became the 2022 LMP2 champion, and now he's back after testing the Alpine at the Le Mans Bugatti circuit earlier this week, and he'll get additional seat time at the end of the season's rookie test at Bahrain. DaCosta said he's pleased to return to the WEC with a manufacturer that's been redefining itself in a bold and ambitious way at the forefront of endurance racing. Photo courtesy of Alpine. Formula 2 driver Pepe Marti will compete in Season 12 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. With the road to F1 seemingly shut for the Red Bull junior driver, the F2 regular will make the switch to the electric racing series with Cooper Kiro as a teammate to Dan Ticktum during his first 2 years with Campos Racing F2. Marti won 4 sprint races in Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Austria, and Hungary. He was 6th in this year's F2 standings before his move to Formula E, as Marti will join the likes of Jaime Alguersuari, Oriol Servia, Antonio Garcia, and Roberto Merhi as the 5th Spanish racing driver to compete in Formula E. Marti said his goal is to get up to speed, improve quickly, score points, and get some good results. Photo courtesy of Cooper Kiro. AJ Foyt Racing will expand its open wheel racing program and enter Indy NXT in 2026. Foyt will field 2 Indy NXT cars in a strategic alliance with HMD Motorsports. The team hopes to build a strong foundation for drivers, crew members, engineers, and partners to create a more straightforward path to the NTT IndyCar Series. Team president Larry Foyt said they've played a significant role in developing drivers who've gone on to compete at the top level of IndyCar and felt it was the right time to start up an Indy NXT team. Graphic courtesy of AJ Foyt Racing. Sports car racing organization Rafa Racing Team will debut in the ARCA Menard Series West season finale at Phoenix Raceway next weekend. The team is led by team principal Kevin Conway, who is currently, in a partnership with Toyota, fielding the GR Super GT4 in IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, IMSA VP Racing Sports Car Challenge, and SRO Pirelli GT4 America. Toyota development driver Isabella Robusto will drive the number 2 Toyota with sponsorship from AMS YS. Robusto just completed the 2025 season in ARCA National, and she finished 4th in points and won Rookie of the Year, during the final season of Venturini Motorsport. She said Rafa's culture of excellence and diversity perfectly aligns with her values and approach as a driver, and she's proud to represent this team as they take on this new challenge together at Phoenix and begin her partnership with the Rafa family of companies. Graphic courtesy of Rafa Racing Team. And now some breaking news that occurred right before we come on the air tonight from Joe Gibbs Racing. JGR announced that William Suárez will miss Saturday's NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Martinsville Speedway after experiencing concussion-like symptoms following his accident during last Sunday's race at Talladega Super Speedway. If you're watching the Xfinity race on the CW, there was a wreck, and William Suárez got squeezed hard into the outside wall, and he was later transported to the hospital where he was for several hours before JGR came in the middle of the night and said he was released from the hospital. So William Suárez will not be racing at Martinsville while he recovers from these concussion-like symptoms. As the team announced, Justin Bonsignor, the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour star, he's going to be in the number 18 Sound Gear Toyota GR Super this weekend at the Paperclip. Yeah, so another opportunity for the modified legend and Justin Bonsignor getting another chance in the Xfinity Series. And William Suárez, he put out this statement after JGR's saying, "I'm disappointed to not be in the car this weekend, but my health is my number one priority. I'm feeling better every day and working with Dr. Collins at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and NASCAR to go through their concussion protocol to return to the track as soon as possible." Yeah, and we certainly hope William Suárez will recover from these concussion-like symptoms soon and get back to being at the racetrack. And that's all of the headlines I have for you this week. That took over 10 minutes, so I'll rest my voice for a brief second while I hand over to Matt for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
But before we get to Pick a Winner, there is more breaking news. I have more to add to the list as I just wait for this page to load. Reigning Supercars champion Will Brown will make a one-off return to HMO Customer Racing, substituting for Josh Buchan in next weekend's 7th round of the TCR World Tour in China. So Will Brown, as part of Supercars, of course, this weekend at the Gold Coast, will then be jetting off to China next weekend to take part in that race. Buchan will be back in the car for the Macau finale, which is TCR World Tour and Australia, although the Australian TCR Championship never really got going this year for various reasons. So more action for Will Brown behind the wheel of a racing car. Let's get into Pick a Winner then for the week. We have 2 races to pick from tonight, and there is the championship standings. And as you can see by the green numbers versus the red numbers, it is down to 4 of us now. The final 4 much like we're going to find out who's going to be in the final four of all the NASCAR championships after the Martinsville weekend. This weekend, we have our pick a winner final four coming down to the last few races of the season. I've mentioned supercars. We'll get to them in a minute because we're going to start off our pick a winner picks for the show this week with MotoGP. They are on their final flyaway race of the season. They are at the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia this weekend for the Malaysian Grand Prix. And of course, that means there is a sprint race too. I get first dibs. And as I said on the show last week, I'm going to stick with my pick for this week. And I'm going to go with Alex Marquez. It is his circuit and Mark is not there. Alex Marquez is my pick for the sprint on Saturday. Kobe, who you got?
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna say Alex Marquez as well. No, I picked him last week, and then I decided to change it at the very last moment. Got me a point, but not enough to catch up with Matthew Bro, who I believe is on his way to becoming a two-time and back-to-back pick a winner champion. But still gonna go with Alex Marquez. And as always, if he doesn't qualify well, may consider changing it. Who you have, Joe?
I'm going to go with Marco Beschecchi. I think he and that team could do another surprising effort. Long straightaways, that'd be a good indicator of where the speed is. But Marco Beschecchi is going to be my pick.
23 points still available, including this weekend's points up for grabs in pick a winner. So Tanner is still within a shot. It's a long shot, but he's just about still in the game. And then in a couple of weeks, I'll probably fall out. It's all going to be down to you, Kobe, to see if you can catch Matt up at the top of the point standings. We've already mentioned the extremely sad supercars news of the day, which is, if you're just joining us, that former GRM boss Gary Rogers has passed away at the age of 80. That is going to put a dampener on the whole of the Gold Coast 500 weekend, but you can be sure there is going to be tributes aplenty across the broadcasts and the podcast following on next week about the sad passing of Gary Rogers. We have races to pick for. There are only 2 supercar races this weekend. There's going to be 3 for the next couple of weekends, but there's 2 to go for at the Gold Coast. Interesting to see who Adam goes with. I am going to go with, I don't know who I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Chaz Mostert to win on Saturday. That's my early weekend pick. But as Kobe says, you've got all the way up until lights out and or a green flag drop to change your picks on any of these races if you get your picks in. So I'm going to go with Chazzy for the moment, but that is subject to change. Kobe, who you got?
This may surprise people, but I'm actually not going with Brock Feeney to win race 1 for now. It depends on qualifying, but I think we're going to see some of the momentum from the Bathurst 1000 carry over. Give me Matt Payne, Penrite Racing, win and advance to the next round of the Supercars finals. And also in the chat, Adam says Roland Dane is back. How awesome is that? And Denver said, rest in peace, Gary Rogers, the founder of Supercars Champions and Legends. Yeah, absolutely. Joe, who you have for the first race on the Gold Coast?
I'm going to go with the driver that leads everything. I'm going to go with Brock Feeney. Overall, it's going to be interesting to see how this weekend's going to shape up, especially with this new championship format.
Yeah, absolutely. 23 points left to play for in the season. This weekend, we have those races on the Gold Coast. That is 2 points. 2 points for MotoGP, of course, with the Sprint and the Grand Prix. NASCAR at Martinsville on Sunday, which is shaping up to be excellent. And the Mexican Grand Prix at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez on Sunday afternoon, where Tapegate surely will roll on even further. You can get your picks in using hashtag Pick a Winner on the Grid Network TV social media accounts, all of them: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, Snapchat, WhatsApp, whatever social media you've got. Blue Sky, get him in and get yourself on the board. You can still get on the first page if you get at least one right for the weekend. For the season from here on out, 23 points still to play for. 4 of us left in play. Right, let's move on to Hots and Knots. We've gone way longer than we perhaps expected to do tonight, so we'll see if we can make this fairly brief. Joe, what have you got in your pocket for a hot or a not from the weekend that was?
For a hot, I would definitely have to say from this past weekend, Trackhouse getting their MotoGP win. That organization has been what Justin Mark calls a disruptor, becoming a little bit of a different attitude in NASCAR. It got wins, contended for a championship. This was a team that Jeff Gluck originally thought it was going to be a bust because they were getting old Chip Ganassi equipment. What an effort. Then to go to MotoGP, I was curious, is this going to be something where they're going to be successful, committed, or does it be something where we've seen the team comes in, 3 or 4 years, well, we're done. We're out. This win, I think, solidifies they're probably in it for the real deal, and I'm curious to see if track is going to continue to expand. So that is my hot from the weekend.
Yeah, that's a big one. Ralph Fernandez getting his first win. It looked like Iagura was going to be their man for the year, but for various things and injuries, it's flipped around. So, yeah, good to see Aprilia going well and Ralph Fernandez getting his win. I also have on the hot list from Phillip Island, Senna Aegis winning at home in Moto2, and by 5+ seconds, he was well clear of the rest of the field. And Joe Kelso, another Aussie, getting second in the Moto3 race. So they had a great day, the Australian fans, and they didn't get blown over or rained on Sunday, which is always a bonus at PI. Other hots from the weekend, Toprak getting his championship in World Superbike, although it was contentious because he was knocked off on the Sunday in the first race by Nico Bulega, getting my championships mixed up. But he won the championship, and that is great. And he comes to MotoGP next year as a 3-time World Superbike champion, and there's not many people that have won 3 World Superbike championships. And Kyle Ryde getting a second BSB title, back-to-back for Kyle Ryde. That was the weekend finale at Brands Hatch at the weekend as well. Not really much to talk about from COTA. That is probably a not. That Grand Prix was terrible. Just nothing happened. One stop Formula One races are just woeful.
Yeah, for a not, I would definitely have to say that, and just the fact, same time as Talladega Super Speedway. I get it. Yeah. F1 wants to compete, but for the fans, I mean, if you have 2 TVs, well, great. If you have 2 monitors and 2 streaming platforms, great. But it's still just something where, unless you're the diehard F1 fan or the diehard NASCAR fan, you're going to have to pick one. And in motorsports, there's a lot of crossover. I just think it's like, come on. They could have done this a lot better. I would just disbelieve. That was my big knot of the weekend. We see Adam. What's hot? Being at Talladega, seeing SVG come back from being stuck in the grass to 11th place finish, and he could have had a better finish. You can see how he lost the draft in the tri-oval. Yeah. A lot of potential there. Definitely, that was, I think, a good hot there. And yeah, overall, something else. Pick a winner. MotoGP Sprint, Alex Marquez. Supercars Race 1, Brock Feeney.
Yeah, another great SVG run. He's putting together them together seemingly every week at the minute, which is great. The hot was the whole race at Talladega. Frankly, I thought it was excellent. Myself, Matthew, and Seth had an absolute ball calling that on Josh's channel. So thank you for Josh for lending us his YouTube on Sunday, and we'll be doing the same again for Martinsville this week, which, to your point, Joe, clashes directly with the Mexican Grand Prix. So yet again, you're going to have to make a choice, which is a shame, but I guess, and it'll be, this is the only last time, because of course we've got Phoenix next week and then Brazil's the week after. So this is the only, these are the only 2 that directly clash, because Brazil won't clash with Phoenix. So I think we should get out of there, because it's an hour and 45 minutes pretty much before we go. If you're seeing the QR code at the top of the screen and the scroll, go to gridnetworktv.com and visit the website and do all of those good things. Like, subscribe, follow, all of that.
100%. I think we're all set to wrap it up for the show. So again, just want to take a look at our upcoming schedule. Stay tuned for Grid Live pre-race. This weekend we'll be previewing NASCAR at Martinsville. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up, approximately 90 minutes following the conclusion of the NASCAR Cup Series race at Martinsville Speedway. Monday, Grid Encore, 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping Xfinity and Truck Series, and you could bet Ben and Brandon are going to have their thoughts on the championship for the Xfinity Series, for the Truck Series. Please continue to subscribe to us right here on the YouTube channel. Hit that bell icon. A big thank you to our Patreon investors. Call the show, Mark, Ron, David, and Matthew. Plus our newest one, Crystal. Get your name on the leaderboard. Link in the video description. As I was mentioned, with subscribing to us, we already got our goal of 1,700. We need to get to 2,000. So share with your family and friends that follow motorsports. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next time we go on there. You get the notification. and across social media, Grid Network TV and the website gridnetworktv.com. Take 5 minutes to invest in your time to read the work Matthew does. If you watch NASCAR all the time, if you also want to just take a one-time opportunity to invest in us, buy me a coffee, YouTube Super Chat. We'll thank you the next time we go on the air and add your name to the leaderboard. I see Jason leads the leaderboard with 5 cups of coffee or Super Chats. And once we hit the goal of $500 a month, especially with 2026 around the corner, we want to send our team to the track more often. There's a lot of potential opportunities there. So a big thank you to everyone for tuning in to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. Matt and Kobe, I'm Joe. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time and enjoy the races.